Children, oh children, I have something to tell you. Something so amazing. I wonder if you'll even believe it. I hardly believe it myself. But wait, I must start at the beginning. The end of the story never makes sense when you haven't heard the beginning. Now does it? Before I met Jesus, I was lost. Oh, so very lost. I was lost in the darkness. I was so confused. I had no hope. I knew no love. I had done things, many things, that made me feel so ashamed. My heart was hurting and I felt empty inside. But then I met Jesus. When he saw me, he looked right into my eyes. Me, a shameful, wretched woman, and all I saw in his eyes was love. I could hardly believe he'd look at me at all, and if he did, I expected him to condemn me and tell me that I deserved to be punished and that I deserved to die. But he didn't. Instead of looking at me with hatred and anger, he looked at me with love and compassion. He reached his hand out to me and healed me. He gave me hope. He filled me with love. And he told me that I mattered. He told me I didn't have to be living the way I was living. He said I could be different. He said, "Go, sin no more." Me, a woman nobody else believed in. So I began to follow him. There were others as well. We followed him and were listening to his teachings. We listened to him teach about forgiveness and to treat others the way we wanted to be treated. We watched him reach out his hand to the poor, lame, and sick, and those who, like me, had lived a life with shame and sin. He loved us all. He healed sicknesses, yes, but he also healed our hearts. He treated everyone as if they really mattered, as if they were important to him. Not just the men, but the women and the children. Oh, he loved the children so much. He would sit with them and draw them close. I remember the way he would make them smile. Those hands, so gentle and loving, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, holding the hand of a child, reaching out to a woman who was too ashamed to even lift her head. But then one night, the soldiers came and took him away. We were all so afraid. We left him and ran away. We hid ourselves and followed him at a distance to see where they would take him. They took him to a governor who was named Pilate. Jesus was surrounded by soldiers and being treated like a criminal. I didn't understand. The soldiers began to spit on him. They put a blindfold on him so he couldn't see, and the soldiers hit him with their hands. I couldn't bear to watch. I buried my face in my hands and wept bitter tears. Why were they doing this? How could they be so mean and cruel to someone who is full of gentleness and love? Then I heard Pilate speaking. He was telling the people that he could release one prisoner that night and asked if they wanted that prisoner to be Jesus or another man named Barabbas, who was a murderer. Oh, my heart swelled with such hope. Of course they would choose to release Jesus. Why would anyone want to set a murderer free when they could set a good man free? A man who healed the sick and loved the people who nobody else loved. Of course they would set Jesus free. My tears became tears of joy, and I grabbed the hand of the woman standing right next to me. But then, something terrible happened. The people began to shout for Barabbas to be set free. I was shocked and confused. They wanted to set Barabbas, a murderer, free? They wanted to release a man who had taken lives from others instead of a man who healed the sick and gave life to so many? And then Pilate asked the people what they should do with Jesus. And then they began to shout, "Crucify him!" I couldn't believe it. They wanted him to be put to death on a cross. A cross. Crosses are used for punishment for the worst criminals. It is a horrible and painful way to die. It's torture. Why? Why Jesus? What evil had he done? So Pilate released Barabbas to them. Then the soldiers whipped Jesus. Then they twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They began to make fun of him and laugh at him, and they hit him and spit on him. And they finally led him out to crucify him. We couldn't get close to where he was. We could only watch from a distance. I don't think I could handle being any closer. Oh, children, it was so terrible. We watched and listened as they drove the cruel nails into his hands, those precious hands that had been used to reach out to the unloved, to heal the sick, to bring hope and freedom to those who lived in darkness. As I stood and looked at Jesus hanging on the cross, I began to feel very angry at these men, these soldiers who were so cruel. I hated them. I wanted them to be punished. How could they do this? How could they cause so much pain to someone that has been nothing but good? Then I heard Jesus. He was calling out in a loud voice, as if he was crying out to God in heaven, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." In that moment, I realized something. Jesus was not just a victim of the cruelty of those men. He was not powerless. Jesus was on that cross because he was choosing to suffer and die for them. For me, even for the murderer of Barabbas, because of the amazing love he had for all of us. Oh, but children, I have to show you what happened this morning. Come with me. After Jesus died, they wrapped his body in fine linen cloth, and Mary, his mother, and our friend Salome and I followed them to see where they would lay the body. They brought him to this tomb. After they laid his body in the tomb, they rolled this very large stone against the door of the tomb. We wanted to bring spices to prepare his body for burial, but we knew we'd have to wait till the Sabbath, which is our day of rest. When the Sabbath was over, we took the spices to the tomb. It was very early in the morning when we got there. The sun was just rising. But there was one problem. A very big problem that worried us the whole time that we walked to the tomb. Who was going to roll away the stone from the door of the tomb for us? But when we arrived from the tomb and looked up, we saw the large stone had been rolled away. We entered the tomb and saw a man in a long white robe sitting on the right side, and we were scared. And he said, "Do not be afraid, for you are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who is crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him? Go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going to Galilee. You will see him there." Children, I have to tell you, we were trembling and amazed. It was so confusing and shocking. We didn't quite know what to believe or feel. I was afraid someone had stolen his body. I wandered at a tomb in sorts of a daze, and then I just stood there weeping. And as I wept, I looked into the tomb. I looked into the tomb and saw two angels in white sitting there. And they asked me why I was weeping. And I said, "Because they'd taken away my Lord. And I do not know where they had laid him." Then I turned away from him and saw Jesus standing there. I didn't know it was Jesus at first. He said to me, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" I thought he was the gardener. And I said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Then Jesus said to me, "Mary!" And then when I heard him say my name, I knew it was him. It was Jesus. It was my Lord, my teacher. I ran up to him and threw my arms around him. I could hardly believe he was real. Then Jesus said to me, "Do not cling to me, but go tell others." So I quickly went and shared the wonderful, joyous news. He's not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come see the place where the Lord